All right, welcome everybody to Comic Book Radio. My deepest apologies about the lateness tonight. Did an update on the computer about a week or so ago, and it's like a luck of the draw when this thing turns on. Whether or not it goes smoothly, or I gotta do a restart. And man, tonight was not the night for a smooth start. But thank you guys for being here. Whew. All right, this is episode 197. 3 away from 200. Tonight, my guest is Joe CATAPANO. He's been on here, I think, 2 other times before. I think it was 2. I don't think it was 3. I think this is his 3rd. And I'm looking forward to having this conversation with him tonight about the never-ending quest for self-improvement. We're always constantly trying to get better at something. Hopefully. And I'm looking forward to talking to Joe about that. Before I bring him on and we get started, just a couple of things. So the Blood Realm campaign that Rob Geronimo is running, super close to that 12K mark. I think the last time I checked, he was at like 239 away. And then he's unlocking a 12K stretch goal for a resin statue. That's awesome. Tonight is also the last night on the King Cryptid campaign. It's the second chance, but it's also the last chance to get the 10 poster set. They're 11 by 17 posters. I signed one of them. That's $19. US shipping is $6. That's tonight. It ends tonight. That's it. You can go to alternativecomics.com/KingCryptid to get yours, or you can go to kingcryptid.com to get yours. 10 posters, $19. And then the other thing, yesterday I was off because I was catching up and doing art, finishing art up. And I got a chance to finish up a lot of art. I had commissions that I had to get done. So if you're wondering where I was, that's where I was. Thank you guys for allowing me that. I've got it posted in the community on the YouTube channel if you want to check out some of what I've been doing. All right, so we got What Geeks Do Network here. What's up, What Geeks Do Network? Hope you're doing good. We got Joe CATAPANO in the chat as well. Also, Zaid Studios here too. What's up, Zaid? What Geeks Do says, am I the only one who rehearses that Rocky speech every show? Well, we're doing it together then. We're doing it together. But yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. Gets me fired up every day. All right. Before, let me see. Nope, I got to that already. Okay, good. All right, so without further ado, let's bring him on, the man of the hour. We're already well into it, unfortunately, thanks to me. Mr. Joe CATAPANO. What's up, Joe?
Hello, Pete. Good to have, good to be back on, not have you on. Yeah, I think it's been only 2 times, if we don't count the open mics back in the day that you did. If we don't count those, it's been a couple times.
Yeah, I almost thought it was 3, but it was because I was on your channel.
That's right. We did a fun interview there, too.
Yeah, so we did 2 here and then 1 on yours. But I was looking back a while ago. You had sent me a DM about some of the topics you'd like to see on the show or that you would want to discuss. And I was looking through that and I was thinking, this would be a good one to talk to you about. Because it seems like you're always on, the verge of either learning something new or diving into something new to learn. And it would be good to talk to you about this and your journey in terms of being an artist, a writer. I mean, heck, even on your Twitter, you've got, it says something about being a comic book artist that's learning to be a writer or something like that?
Yeah. It's in my bio, I mentioned I'm more of an artist that learned to write rather than the other way around.
Yeah. So you're always picking up on something. You're always striving to improve on something. So I figured this would be a good topic to discuss with you, courtesy of your suggestion.
I mean, yeah, I think it's I think almost for anybody, I'm pretty interested. It's like I'm a self-help kind of guy. I just really like all those type of productivity type of books, and so I listen to it about all day, every day. I'm always looking for new things to help the flow, help the mind, help the body, And so yeah, it's always a good topic.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those that don't know, Zaid Studios put it out there, but Joe's got Star Circuit Chapter 2 out right now. It's funding on Indiegogo. The link is in the description of the show if you guys want to check that out. We'll touch upon that later towards the end of the show and take a look at the campaign. But I want to dive right in. So when you were getting started with all of this in terms of making a comic, drawing, writing, all that stuff, you mentioned you started off first as a comic artist. How did you get started with all of that?
My start as a comic artist and maybe my history before that, or just right when I hit comics?
Just like when you basically decided that, I think I want to do this. I think I want to learn more about this and draw towards making comics, not just drawing in general, but to actually make comics.
Yeah, I feel like I had that immediate jump from. I remember as a kid I had Garfield and comic strips like that, like Calvin and Hobbes. And that was my real first introduction to the somewhat of the medium. And I think I'm pretty sure I have like some little kid drawings of like small strips or something when I was a kid, but I wouldn't really consider that my start. Afterward I didn't really jump into comic books as we all kind of refer to them, like for like not only the superhero genre but everything. I did that in college, so it took a long time. I started drawing in college. And I think it was almost immediately I picked up Robin, the Tim Drake arc it must have been 2006. And that's a Freddie Williams, Carl Kerschel artist combination. And those guys are great, my favorite. And Freddie later became like a mentor for me. But either way, the cool part is that Freddie also released a companion book. I don't know if everybody knows, but there's like a digital How to Learn to Draw Comics Digitally by Freddie Williams for DC, and I bought that along with like the first few books that I bought initially, and that kind of jump started me into like learning how to draw. Yeah.
Did you go to college for it? Were you self-taught?
I was completely self-taught, except for because I went to college for computer animation, and so with that, it's like a technical type of school. It's like a technical program, so like very minimal drawing. There's like a couple figure drawing classes, but besides that it's all computer clicking and it goes like drop downs and getting shaders right. 3D is a difficult medium for me, at least. I got out of it because the same reasons why you had your problems today in the beginning with the computer. I just hated like I would get so pissed if I was working on something cool, like a piece of art in 3D, and it was the computer problem, like computer crash, something crashed, and you lose your work, or you lose like the flow of creativity. And so ever since that, I did a few jobs after college, and I used it a little bit later on in my career, but I got away from computer stuff immediately and started teaching myself how to draw. And mostly inspired by comics. I didn't care about fine art. I didn't really care about other types of mediums. I was strictly concerned with just how cool lines looked, just dynamic figures, and just how storytelling worked. Like I thought it's like one of those mysterious. Remember those? What do they call those boxes where like it's two images and you look at them at like what do they call them? It's like little slivers of. It's almost like blinds where there's little slits in between these images, and you'd slide this little slider and it would switch between the images, and it like makes this little magic trick kind of happen in front of your eyes.
It's kind of like a lenticular thing.
Yeah, I think that's what they would call them. Yeah, I saw those as a kid, but that's kind of the analogy for me. Like that's what just reading a sequence in panels, that's kind of what it does to me. It's like it triggers, at least for me, like a whole lot of my imagination and just like a magical experience. And so, I immediately jumped into drawing after seeing some.
Which comic artist really inspired you?
I'd have to say that first Robin book for some, I don't know. Like I tell this to Freddie all the time, and he like gets embarrassed and gets like almost mad at it because nobody likes their beginning work. Because his work today is much more like painterly and artistic, and I'd say like he does a lot of ink wash with his TMNT Batman stuff and the Thundercat stuff he does. But his beginning work was very digital, and it was straight inks, straight, kind of like what traditional comics was. And I was attracted to that. I just really liked how simple he made things, and at the same time knew the rules of dynamic figures and storytelling to a T. And I just liked his story too. It was inspiring to hear that he was picked up from, he was one of the rare people that got picked up from DC's like talent contests. And you never hear about like the people from those. Like he's the only one that I really know. I know he mentions a couple others in maybe one of his videos, but that was inspiring. I was like, oh, this is something, if you push it and like keep striving to like show people and show editors, you can get enough attention and get a job and do it. So yeah.
Did you ever try to go down the mainstream path? Did you ever submit to those bigger publishers?
Totally. I think that's my whole kind of secret sauce to where I'm at now, is that I had a drive to draw some of the characters, especially from DC. So I would get reviews from DC and tons of different small press places. And a lot of my stuff, like in the beginning, really sucked. And anybody out there who's like listening, they're like really kind of down on themselves about like their work. You just have to know that it'll come with time. And a lot of my videos on YouTube, I actually try to find my worst images that I've ever drawn and throw them into the video. That way, you kind of see where I came from. Like my fiance can't believe that like I was that bad. That's how bad they were. And I got a little bit better by the time I was submitting to DC and whatnot, but it still wasn't good enough. However, at some point I did get close. Like many times, especially the small press stuff. Aftershock, I submitted to Plenty of Scout, all the small press places, and everybody gave me a job. But I didn't take them because I knew that I would be forced into like quantity over quality. I think I had that feeling that I would I would put out a lot and I would get better, but I didn't want to jeopardize I guess that I was afraid of that. I was pretty much afraid of doing more than I wanted to and reduce the quality.
What kind of work were you being offered?
Sequentials and covers and stuff. Like I was getting good enough work or good enough critiques from my samples. I would do Green Lantern, and I would draw like other favorite characters of mine, TMNT, Batman Beyond, like things that kind of like appeal to me. And I do like a few page samples, Superman, and show them off to people and editors, and they would really like them enough to like give me a shot. And I would take them up on like a commission or something, and then not take the rest, like the sequential work. I was mostly afraid of that. Maybe it was a part of me that like I was actually afraid that I couldn't do it, and I shied away. But in retrospect, a lot of my, I think, like improvement came from this like not really getting there. You know what I mean? Like if you always get these reviews, and at some point, not only were they like good reviews, they would be like real, like they would say like I almost have nothing to tell you, Joe. Like your stuff is really good. You're almost better than what I did when I started. And when you get those type of critiques back, you're like, why don't I have the job then? Like and you're like, okay, so there's more to this than just meeting the requirements. And that was the end goal. And so I hit that mark, and that's kind of when I shifted to making my own book. I was like, okay, I've hit the mark where at least I think I'm getting the reaction that I wanted. Like I wanted to hear I got a job, or at least what they told me, which was, that I hit the requirements to, at least for someone like me, to get a job.
Did you ever try submitting one of your own stories, your own properties?
Yeah, right after one of those critiques that I did, I think the last one I did was like a DC review, because I'm really a DC fan, so like that's where I submitted and I gauged. But I submitted to everybody. But I did submit some of the covers for the early Star Circuit stuff. I did some test pages for Star Circuit that look totally different, really cool still, but like they look totally different than what my book looks like now. And I showed those off to DC and stuff, and they would comment. And a lot of the people, especially the artists that I showed and got critiques from, would tell me, "Oh, this is a good idea, dude. You should probably." They would like, fist bump me and be like, "This is the way, dude." Like, and I would take that with I don't know. It's weird to like have the ambition to do what your job is doing, and they're behind the desk and they're signing books, and then they tell me, fist bump, cool, whatever you just did over here is almost better than what I'm doing in some weird way. Not in quality, but in like in pursuit.
Yeah, yeah. Making your own characters, your own stories, that kind of a thing.
Yeah. So it was cool to get feedback a little bit on it and encouragement that way. But I do think like that, that nugget, how that works, like where like it's almost like supply and demand. The further you get to like working and not hitting your goal, the more it pulls at you, not the other way around. And it's just like when you're speeding up to like a street light and you see it turn yellow, you almost want to pass it more than you did before. You're like, I can do it, I can make it, and without running a red light. But it's that feeling of like, I'm almost there. I would tell people, I'd tell people like, man, I'm like 5 months away from like getting a job, man. I can feel it, and I would say that every year though, you know what I mean? It would be like a broken record to other people, but that's how my heart felt about it. And people would tell me off or whatever.
Is it because you felt like you were progressing more and more and developing your skills at that point? So there was always like a bar that you were setting higher and higher?
I think I wasn't perceiving it that way. I would almost even call it like a delusion. A lot of people say this about like after they do a big project, that like if they knew how hard it was to get to where they are now, they might not have started. And that's kind of how it is. It's like I was working so hard. And the passion was there, just like putting in like I remember it was like a period of time of like a year and a half where I didn't have like a lot of like friends around and didn't have a girlfriend. I would just like draw all weekend, like go to the job and then just come home and literally just draw literally almost all weekend, never leave. And those were like the biggest jumps in improvement. I would just like, from then I was like, okay, I really like this, but, the passion and the delusion like tricks you, like you're improving so much that like, oh yeah, next year I can do this, but in reality it's 8 more years of that, and you just don't. If you knew that up front, I'd be like, maybe I should go learn to surf or like, it's like something something else.
Well, that's the thing, right? I mean, everything you want to do takes time, so you might as well put that time into something you really care about and really want to do. Because I know you say that where it's like, oh man, if I knew how much time it was going to take, I don't know if I would have gone and done that. But then you would have done something else that would have took you pretty much as much time, if not longer, to get good at it.
Somewhat. Yeah, I have a little kind of a different feeling about comics because I really think comics is a uniquely hard thing. It's almost like doing like stop motion animation. It's like uniquely tedious and a lot of work because there's so much drawing. It's like being an animator, but you don't get a steady paycheck. It's like, it's weird. Or in a lot of cases, you don't get a steady paycheck. Interesting that I think of it that way. But I was thinking about it also from what you said in one of our interviews. You mentioned for your history that you like tried sequentials and you just decided it wasn't right for you. Like you weren't able to, is that how it worked for you? Like you just didn't think it was going to pan out?
Yeah. Well, it was more like an impatience factor. I just didn't have the patience for it, and I'm trying to develop more of that patience to the point that now I'm looking at it. I'm drawing more often. I've got more time to do that now because of various things that have been transpiring over the past couple of years. And I'm like, I don't know, maybe I give it a shot again in 3 or 4 years, if I keep it up, and we'll see where I'm at. But it's one of those things at the time. I did it and I was like, no way. and I'm glad I thought about that. But yeah, it put me down the path that I'm currently on. So it's interesting.
Well, I was gonna say, believe it or not, Pete, that was the first time I even considered that for myself. Like, oh, I when you said that, I was like, wait, I can choose not to do it.
Yeah.
And that's an option. And so like, I don't know, I think I'm also just a stubborn asshole, and so I like once I set down a path, I think there's two types of people. Some people can jump in and jump out, jump in again. I'm like this guy that's like, if I don't hit it, I'm gonna like just grind it. I'll grind my bones down until it works, and then once I get a little bit, then I can ease up. And I've hit that mark where I'm like, I can ease up a little bit. But the point was like, I never even thought that like I could just stop. I think my brain almost thinks that's quitting, or even though it's not, because I think I heard this from somebody. As long as you go to another task that's equally as hard, it's not really quitting, because you're just kind of pivoting. It's a pivot.
It's
rather
like a
than,
step sideways.
Yeah.
As opposed to a step back.
Yeah, as long as you just don't like go to like your mom's basement and play video games all day. Instead, I think you can make whatever decisions you want.
Yeah,
and even that's okay.
You bring up a good point about mindset, because so much of it is mindset. It begins and ends with that. You know, if you don't have the right attitude for it, for anything, if you think you can't, you're not gonna. You know, so you're already gonna kind of cut yourself off from whatever potential you could have possibly had. But you know, with me, it was one of those things where at the time I knew that I didn't have the patience to devote to sequential art and to give it everything that it needed. And I also just didn't have the experience or the knowledge. And I figured, okay, I don't like to do this, which means that I'm going to already minimize where I'm going to go with it. But I like to write. I like to letter. I could do a cover. I could do a pin-up, whatever that is. I'll kind of reserve whatever for that. And I learned as much as I possibly could about comic making. This way I could know what I wanted to pursue further. And whatever I didn't want to do, I got someone else that could do it to what I thought was better than what I possibly could have done. You know, and it was a big part of learning and growing in terms of doing stuff in comics, because if I felt like, okay, I'm going to stick with it, I'm going to try like crazy to get into the mindset of sequential art and do that and just, you know, put my nose to the grindstone or whatever, I don't know if I'd still be making comics. I think I would have ruined it for me. I think I would have ended up hating it.
Yeah, it's almost like you're almost forcing it too much or something like that.
Yeah.
Almost. It's a weird thing that also this is kind of like on the same subject, but actually in the process of making art, there is that thing where if you try too hard, and people always wonder why their sketches are better than their finals, and it's mostly because, well, there's some technical things that you can do to make sure that happens a little bit better, but a lot of it's like the pressure of like, this line needs to be perfect now, not a loose thing, and so everything becomes so stiff, and if you add enough stiff lines, it just doesn't look anywhere near like your original sketch would.
You lose the energy, you know, and the movement. Yeah.
And just the overall, the feeling. A lot of times there's another video I saw recently on YouTube I loved, talked about artifacting, which is just this guy's term for leaving the dirt on the page, essentially. Like, don't erase all the pencil lines from the underdrawing. I'll leave some there because it adds to everything. Like the whole point is that you never really know when you first start out making a piece of art that it's going to turn out the same way as you think. So like, let's just let it go for a little bit and let it be a little bit more free. And maybe by the end, those marks that you left on the page will add to it. And that's something I had to learn over a long time. I'd always like clean the page. I'm like, you know what I mean? Like really, really make it as clean as possible. But I think it's detrimental, especially if you don't have everything else on point, you know?
Yeah. Well, something that was great when I was talking to Art T. Bear, he was talking about a time when he got to be around Frank Frazetta, and Frazetta was saying pencil tight and ink loose. This way that you have that energy still when you have the final, instead of, a lot of people will pencil loose and then ink tight, and then the image gets stiffer and it loses that energy and that motion that you really want to have there. And I keep that in my mind nowadays when I'm working on stuff, because before I used to pencil real loose when it came to stuff that wasn't just like a quick sketch, and then I would find that it would be tightening up and with the ink process. But now I try to go not super tight with the pencils to the point that it's basically a finished pencil drawing, but way tighter than I would have done before, and then get in there and even embellish a bit with the inks from time to time, but go in there and what Metatron over here is saying, whip those pens.
With those pens.
Get some movement in there and have confidence in your line, but that takes time to build that up and to get to that point too, which is like what you were talking about earlier, where people starting off, you have to stick at it and you have to keep committing to what it is, but you got to have that love and you got to really want to do that, because if you find that you hate everything about it, like if you hate everything about making a comic book, then I want to ask you, why on earth are you making a comic book?
Yeah.
So sometimes I'll talk to people and I'm like, it sounds like you hate every single thing about this. So why are you doing it?
Yeah.
And then they'll be like, I don't know. That's a good point.
Yeah, it's something that you don't you don't have to do this thing. It's like I mean, the upside is like, I guess both, whatever path you choose, cool, but like make sure you're having fun along the way. And so yeah, comics are supposed to be fun. The whole reason why you're in it is to like the passion of it. When I like really feel like the passion drove me for sure, because otherwise it wouldn't work so hard. But at the same time, I call it a delusion because not everybody views certain things the same way. So like you might see my piece as like a piece of crap, but I'm noticing like, oh, I finally nailed that one thing. You know what I mean? And to me, I'm focusing on this one thing. I can look past the imperfections. But man, this other concept that I like to think about too, which is how your eye develops and how your hand develops, and they develop on different scales. And your eye is kind of like a proxy for taste. So, and taste is just exposure. I think personally you can develop good taste. And so just read a bunch of classic good comics and you'll probably get a way better taste than if you didn't. And I know that's still subjective, but at the same time, like generally, I think like if you do the research and just in general, like really be curious about what art is in this medium, you'll find that you'll probably enjoy like the higher concept stuff rather than like the lower kind of, not that there are lower comics, but you'll have a better taste, and that will trigger your eye when you draw to like recognize what's good, recognize what's bad. Oh, I saw whoever, John Byrne to do it this way. His Superman looks awesome, so when I draw Superman, I probably should do it similarly. And you just won't know that if you don't have the knowledge. It's a visual library thing. But I think that for a long time, my eye developed faster than my hand, and during that period of time, you just think everything you draw is shit. So like you end up in a way where you're like, I remember complaining to my friends, my family, just like in a piss poor mood because like I couldn't get past this execution like hill, where like my hand wouldn't match up to my eye, and nothing I drew was good enough. And it took like months. And finally, either I took a hiatus and came back, but the next thing I knew, I didn't have that complaint.
Yeah, that's interesting, man. We got a couple questions and comments here in the chat. Comics Legend says, "Hi Joe, congratulations on your launch. What artwork do you have on your wall? You should put up some Star Circuit posters or art on your wall too."
Thanks, man. So here is Sid Mead. This is the spinner car from Blade Runner, his concept. That's pretty cool. And up here is Frazetta, we just talked about.
Oh, nice.
I love that piece. I just happen to have that one, and I have an orange wall, so I was like, man, that's just gonna fit in great. And I got more Frazetta. I got EVS. Let's see, Freddie Williams. And I have Zaid Studios who's in the chat as well. So that's great.
Oh, yeah. There he is, popping up with a couple comments throughout the course of our conversation.
In all caps, I love it.
Yeah. Comics for Life asks, who do you turn to artistically? Who do you turn to artistically to better your own style, and do you feel you found your style?
Only recently do I feel like I have, and not only that, I have in some weird way I can adapt to whatever style I like, because I'm also working on a secret project, and I think this also added to it. And by doing another project that in this project, it's way different than what I've done before, because I also do storyboards, and for some reason this other guy who I picked up this project from liked my boards, and I thought he liked my comics. He liked my boards, and my boards are very just much more realistic proportions and whatnot, so it's got more of that old school feel, the Watchmen type of proportions, which are a little more heroic but like still really down to earth, grounded type of rendering. And so after doing that and coming back to my other style, everything just worked out. I was like, man, I didn't think I could do that other thing. I didn't think I could adapt to it, but I was able to adapt to it, and it gave confidence. And yeah, I'm just making good work. I think all that has come together. My style, I think, lends to like this. My book and my style both lend to like a Japanimation type of mixing. It's like I'm in the realm of Joe Mad, Alvin Lee stuff, which is very inspired by those type of exaggerated hands and what I call chunky. They chunk up their shapes in a certain way and proportion that to me, I call it chunky, but it probably can be described in a better way. But yeah, that's what I think I have.
All right. Jose Garcia, what's up, Jose? Says, if you dread working on your goals, you have the wrong goals. Yeah.
It's interesting, yeah. I'm like pondering it. That's an interesting way to put it.
Yeah. If everything that you set for yourself, you don't look forward to trying to achieve it or come up with a way to solve that problem, and you dread it, you hate it, you don't want to do it, every fiber of your being, you get like that horrible anxiety feeling about it all the time. You have to stop then and ask yourself, why are you putting yourself through that?
Yeah. I feel I'm on a diet right now. I'm on the end of one, and I feel there's a relationship there with almost everything that's kind of harder to do, that especially diet, because like your body, like your mind in a lot of ways, has like an equilibrium and a status quo that it's always trying to relate to, and to get beyond that, you almost have to go a few steps beyond. Like if you want to level out at like whatever 180 pounds and you're like 200, you got to go down to like 170, and then you'll level back out. It's like this weird balance act that there's always like this status quo that you're trying to do. Anyway, the thing that I liked from Jose is that the goals are kind of the same way. You almost like, sometimes you can look at a goal, you have to pretty much trick your mind to like the future goal, because evolutionarily, I think evolutionarily the short term is way more prevalent in our mind. So you have to like force yourself to remember the long term, success is there.
Yeah, and I think that's a way too that, and now what I'm saying, I'm not trying to say that we shouldn't do things that are difficult. Everything's going to be difficult, especially starting out. But there's a difference between I find that you often feel that way. I've felt this way in my life when I'm setting a goal and I dread every single thing about it, or it's a task that you got to do. It's because you don't really want to do it. You'd rather do something else. You'd rather put your time and attention to something else. So when you're putting yourself in that position, you're putting yourself in a position to fail. Now, if, let's say, you really want to make a comic, that means a lot to you, or you really want to be a writer or an artist or whatever it is, I find that if you break that big goal down into these smaller achievable things of, well, what do you got to work on? step by step. You got to make it a lot smaller so you can have the sense of, okay, here's these things I could do. I can get those done. I can achieve that. As opposed to this big, huge, I want to be an artist, right? So someone goes, I want to be an artist. Well, what do? I got to draw. And then they go, oh my, well, how do I draw? What do I do? I don't know how to do that. I guess I'll just start, but I don't think, I don't know what I'm doing, and then you just go for it and you get really discouraged. You feel like I'm putting this time and energy into it. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not doing the necessary things to learn to know what to do better. So then all you do is you keep on being self-referential with it. And if you're teaching yourself something that you already know nothing about and you're just doing it over and over again, practice is going to make permanent. It's not going to make perfect. So it's just going to be reinforcing bad habits over and over again. So the more you do it, you don't know what the hell to do. So, if you have no knowledge of it and you're the teacher for yourself, you're not going to go anywhere. So Exactly. If you break it down and you seek out other things to learn from, and you're like, okay, well, today I'm going to work on eyes. Today I'm going to work on trees. Today I'm going to work on, all these little things. Then all of a sudden you have that accumulation effect. And then you're talking maybe 2-3 years down the road of doing these little things day by day. Now you have this whole repertoire. So I find that that's a way easier thing to accomplish these goals that oftentimes seem really insurmountable in the beginning. But you do have to have that love and that want to do it, because if you don't have that, it's going to be a really difficult road.
It's true. And whatever you want is kind of like it's to the individual. So like whatever the goal is, because for me, sometimes, like, especially when I first started, I didn't necessarily want to make a book. I just wanted to draw that well. Like, I just wanted to be able to draw, like, as well as Jim Lee or something. You know what I mean? That was the goal. So, like, my whole framework and my framing of the problem was just to get better, not to create something necessarily at first. That's just me, because I was just an admirer of the work. So everything I did was just to get better. I said this on Twitter a little bit ago, where like even if I didn't have Twitter or like showing off any of my work in my comic, and I'm living in a cabin in the woods, I'd almost like idolize that kind of like just alone learning how to do better art and just being in a isolated way, just learning. To me, that's just as good as what I'm doing now. But that kind of harkens back to my framing. You can kind of pick apart what my mind's like, especially when I started. It was that kind of framing, like, oh, I wish I just didn't have a job and didn't have all these other things distracting me, where I can just learn. I can just be here and learn how to draw better, and eventually I can pretend I'm Jim Lee.
That's an interesting way of putting it. But yeah, I hear what you're saying, because it's all about this kind of, well, if I had more time and if I had this and I had that and, these right situations in front of me. And eventually you start to realize, like, I'm never really going to have the right situation. I gotta make the time. I have to kind of make the best out of whatever situation that I have, because the right situation is never going to come along. Do you find, either for yourself or maybe for others that you've observed, where there's maybe like a lot of excuse making when it comes to that, where people are always like, well, maybe one day or someday I'll do this, or when the right thing comes along, that it's a lot of this, they're waiting for this perfect scenario, and then they'll finally live the life they want to live, do the thing they want to do.
It's interesting. I don't find a lot of those. Like, I feel like only in my day jobs that I've been at do I find some of those type of people, and they'll actually like love my work, and they'll be like, "Oh man, I wish this is exactly what I would like to do," and like and I'd be like, "You can totally do it," and that's when you get some of those excuses. But I don't have a lot of experience with that. A lot of the artists that I deal with are like, I made friendships with online schools, like little classes online, and you get on the forums, and those type of people have a little bit of motivation. At least they're there on doing the class. And so most of those guys at least will have the tenacity and like just at least the positive attitude. it's really hard to be around the people that like try to make excuses. But it's okay. I get where you're coming from. I almost am jealous of that. Like if you, in some way, if you're happy with not doing those things, let's just say they're telling the truth and they really are doing, they don't have the excuses and they're living the perfect life, where, they could do the 9 to 5 and they come home and they, with their family, cool, and have a good time. If that's the truth, then I'm jealous of that, because I almost, like I was telling Aerith, Brian from Aerith, that like, man, it's almost like a curse to have an ambition like this. It's like an ailment. Like you, like you, like I have to work. I'm battling with it for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? Type of thing. In that way, I think it's. I guess that's like just another framing of passion. But I maybe rambled on there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. For every individual, it's going to be different. But there's always scenarios I find where sometimes people are. There's like a security there, to not have to take that leap, to not have to gamble on yourself, to not have to go, well, I tried it and now I know that I either don't like it or I'm just really not good at it, and it's way harder than I thought it possibly could have ever been. It's almost better to have it stay at arm's length and never really truly become a reality than it is to confront it and go, oh, that's not for me. Even though the other thing could be, well, maybe they find out that it is for them and that they love it and it works out. But maybe that fear is kind of what's holding someone back at times.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that happen a couple of things. I've had it even happen with myself on a couple of things where it was like,
like what? Maybe.
Okay, so with publishing, there was a couple different things where I'm thinking, nah, we won't really put that kind of schedule in play. We won't really make this sort of thing. One day. Waiting for the perfect scenario, because I just didn't know, would anyone actually want that? Would anyone be receptive to that? If we did that, would all of a sudden everything, the whole house of cards come tumbling down because we should have been doing this and instead we did that? So when it comes to decision making with all of that, you got to have calculated risk taking involved, but you can't always play it so safe that you never try something new. So eventually, I think it was after like the 7th year or something of Alterna, I decided every year I'm going to try at least one thing that feels like it's just right outside of my grasp, and work towards that.
Yeah, that's perfect.
And so that's been a thing, because otherwise it turns into stagnation and this like safe comfort zone thing, and you never grow and you never push yourself further, and it's just always, it's nice and reliable and whatever it may be, but it's boring and dull, and you're never trying for something, and it's like you're a walking dead man because you're just not living at that point. You're just always like, but I want to be safe and I want to stay here and I want to do this thing, and it's scary over there, and you gotta tell yourself, yeah, it's scary, but there's some of these things that they're never gonna happen unless I just go for it.
Yeah, it's freeing too once you kind of dive into that. It's almost like jumping into the pool, like you're like, I don't know, it's kind of cold, I'm gonna dip a toe in, but that's not really gonna give you the full feeling, you know what I mean? Yeah. Speaking of, I recently quit my day job to, there's Sherry saying it, go towards the fear. I quit the job, my day job. I was like, man, I'm close enough. I only was working part-time recently. And so I was like, man, I got to just like dive right in. And so it's fair. I was scared. And thankfully, I think if you have a job that is able to like do the baby step of part-time, that's a good way to do it. Cause like it takes some of the, like they're already going to pull your benefits. They're going to pull a lot of stuff when you go part-time. So like it takes the baby step out. Like I already lost benefits. I might as well just quit entirely. Like there's not much they have that I'm going to lose here. A little bit of security, but then you're like, man, I have all this time to do what I really want to do and talk to the people that I care about, and like, you know, like you have all this, the life opens up. I can travel if I want, you know, whatever you want to do now opens up. The freedom's there. But going back to what you said about doing something that just is beyond your grasp, I think is the key to learning. It's like that thing where when you start and you want to be the artist, we just try to learn to be an artist. It's so general and so hard. That gap is way too wide for like a beginner. You need to try to just like draw a tree. You know what I mean? Like draw a leaf. Yeah. Draw something that's like the jump is way closer. And I think that's the key to the flow state too. Like you're never gonna. The flow state is like this state of mind in which everybody experiences if you're in the moment, and you kind of like lose yourself, and you kind of like forget what you're really doing, and you just do, and you forget, and suddenly an hour passes by, and you're like, wow, that was nuts. And people do it in sports, people do it in a lot of things, and certain activities tend to give you that more than others. I think art, like surfing,
it's almost like a self-hypnosis.
Yeah. But I think the key that there's science behind it, and dude, the main scientist has got this crazy name that there's no way I'm going to be able to pronounce, but either way, they found that it's all about the gap. It's about the jump in challenge that you're trying to do. You can't pick something too close to you where it's easy and it's like you can do this in your sleep, and you also can't pick something so hard to do where you are like every line is a struggle, like you're hating yourself for doing it, and it's ruining your mood. You know, like there has to be that in between where you're like, you've done this a few times, and let's just say you're trying to draw like a cover, and you've drawn just about every subject on the page except for this one thing. I've never drawn a motorcycle before. I'm just going to really try to make that work. Everything else I can kind of keep on autopilot because I've done it before a little bit. But yeah, something like that will help the flow state.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. Would you say that you've always been a driven person? And if so, where did that come from?
I think it's work ethic from family life. Growing up, man, I don't know about anyone else, but like my family was just like both my parents are just like hard workers. Like they was like no time for necessarily sitting. We'd have fun and we'd like have family time and stuff, but there's always something to do, and like they're always putting us to work. And so I just from a young age had that, and so like it's maybe this thing where I'm always looking to put my best foot forward, and that's kind of where I get it from. And you can see like it's kind of thing, like if you don't see it in front of you, you don't really know that it's what you should do. And so seeing your parents do like hard work, you're like, oh, if I want, I can stay up to 2 a.m. and finish this thing tonight if I want. It's possible. I saw my mom do that a lot. She was a teacher, and she would just like go above and beyond for the students, that she had. And she'd just stay up till like 2 a.m, even though she's got to go to class in the morning, but she'd like make a ridiculous presentation instead of just like a half-ass one. And just seeing that is kind of inspiring. So very cool. But yeah, in general, I think that's where it comes from. Everything else is just genetics. I think like I'm just like a fiery type of like always fidgeting, always moving, always doing type of guy. I could direct that to anything, but I feel like art, like I probably could have been a CPA just as well as like an artist. I think I just like, because my mind is really half and half.
You like crunching numbers?
I really do, kind of. Like I looked up some bookkeeping like classes. Man, I was like, man, I could do this. This is kind of fun in a way, And it's just a weird thing. It's kind of like how my brain operates. Art has never really come naturally to me. I don't think. It's just half of myself, and I have to like I've been developing that half instead of the other half. And so like, and that's just how I look at it. There's a manga anime called Blue Period about a guy who's just like, he decides to do art. He's probably going to go to college for some normal, boring job, but decides to do art even though he's not talented. And so it's like this journey of like a normal guy, like looking at all these like actually talented maybe genetically talented people, and him trying to compete with those type of people. It's just really cool. I really enjoyed that storyline. I related to it because, like I said, I could have been some sort of number cruncher. Yeah.
Was your family supportive of you pursuing a path in the arts?
Definitely my mom. I feel like my dad doesn't understand as much. I feel like he's more of like the nuts and bolts type of dude. Would understand it more if I was like a mechanic, probably. You know what I mean? Like, would just get it if I wanted to like open
yeah,
up
but
my.
What do you do with this?
Yeah. It's like, but you're drawing cartoons all day, but like, what are you really doing? So I get it, but yeah, I think it's just like I think he respects it, but at the same time doesn't get it. So, but yeah, definitely my mom. She was an art teacher and got a lot of that half really up front and center. I always get critiques from her, and in a way that was really good and helpful from the beginning. But at the same time, I don't know, like, there's like a different mentality for everybody, and a comic critique is different from like another mom artist critique. She was teaching children's. Anyway, my point is, art in general is weird and ethereal sometimes, and like it can be whatever you want it to be. So critiques are subjective, and that's kind of where I was going with that. But yeah, my parents, I think overall supportive, just like of moving forward, doing what you want to do.
I guess this goes kind of hand in hand with it. Comics Legend is asking, what was your family's reaction to your first comic book being published?
So it was Star Circuit, because I didn't really have anything besides Star Circuit. So self-published, I think, counts, right? I would count it. Everybody in my family were stoked. They were really, I think, like, a lot of them were really surprised. So like, especially the ones you don't see a lot, but even the people I do kind of like live in the same area, and they just didn't see me for a couple of years. They finally figured out what I was doing. So yeah, it was like some surprise, but also a lot of like, oh, this is cool, really cool. Interesting to see everybody's reactions for the first time.
Yeah. Ronan47 says, I did a live draw stream on a show a few weeks back. I was so nervous, but like you guys are saying, sometimes you just have to take the leap. Yeah, well, good.
Dude, that's a skill in itself, man. Like, by doing that, I think it's way beyond just. This goes into like some therapy shit. like by you drawing on camera for everyone, it's almost like you're facing fears instead of just drawing at the same. You know what I mean? You're facing like your internal like negative talk at the same time.
Oh yeah, especially if you're someone who's super critical of yourself, if you're, you got that anxiety going, whatever it may be, and then on this type of thing, if you got to interact and talk to people too, it's a harrowing experience, especially your first time doing it. So kudos to you, man.
Yeah, props.
D-Wag says Star Circuit looks dope.
Super dope. Thanks, D-Wag. He's Darren Wagner is a champion for indie comics. I think he's one of the biggest supporters of everybody.
Oh yeah, good dude. Let's see, I'm trying to make sure I didn't miss any questions here. Oh, Comics for Life says, did Yu-Gi-Oh 5D inspire you visually on your Star Circuit book? Some of the layout reminded me of that anime.
Really? Never really got into Yu-Gi-Oh, so I don't know the particular 5D one, but I as a kid randomly seeing just some of the art, so I know kind of what it looks like, but no, I don't think it seeped in because I didn't really have the input.
What's some of the stuff that when you were diving into creating comics that you had the most struggle with, that you thought was the most difficult, and how did you break that down and overcome that? And are there still things that you're trying to tackle?
Yeah, I'd imagine the things I'm still struggling with today are the things I struggled with most then. But there's actually a scale. You can look it up on, I think Feng Zhu's Design Classes Online has this scale, which is essentially there's things that are like easier to draw because they're more organic and natural. And there's on the high end is something really particular like anatomy, creatures, humans, where if you don't get it right, especially the human face, that it's really easy. The margin for error is really small for those type of things. Where the margin of error for drawing a tree can be anything. The tree shape can be almost anything. You know, a lot of environmental, organic stuff can be that way. So I'd say the hips, hands, and still portraits. Still portraits cause so much trouble for me. Like certain angles, certain upshots, like especially like I'm at the stage of I can draw an attractive face from just about anywhere, but can I draw the same attractive face from just about anywhere and make it look like them? That's where I'm at, and that's where my the cliff is at. That's where I'm cautious. And
you mean like the different angles?
Yeah,
on the face?
And getting it right for that character. Like I can make any face randomly, you know, to look kind of correct around, you know, a generic face, but to get my characters to look correct in every angle, or any other, you know, character to look right in any other, it's tough. I think anybody will have that struggle. Yeah.
Looks like it got really dark.
Yeah, I know. I swear to God, I think my lights are on a schedule. They're hue lights in this, so they they're been turning off and on. I'm gonna like go check out the automation on it.
Okay.
The AI is acting up on me.
Uh-oh. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
and it's happened a few times.
Between Star Circuit 1 and this second chapter, what are some of the things specifically that you look back at on the first book that you've kind of developed and maybe improved upon for the second one?
Oh man, tons of things. But the things that really come to mind are pacing. I didn't really realize this up front, but like literally the number of panels that you have on a page directly relates to the pacing. And I didn't know that up front. Like I thought it was like, because it does somewhat coincide with the bubbles too. Because like the longer or more words on the page means the more you're spending time on them. But as far as pacing and how you feel the vibe, I think it directly relates to the panels that you have on the page. More panels on the page means like it's moving, it feels like it moves a little quicker and jumpier, and less panels you have more time to like relax and just like see the shots, rest your eye, see the next shot, rest your eye. I didn't pick that up for a while, and I think I really made that work for book 2. Intentionally put where I wanted a lot of panels to be, put the pages where I wanted fewer panels to be to make it feel like it's slower. So I did that intentionally this time. And in general, I work digitally, so all my work is cleaner. Like I think the storytelling's way more clean, way more clear. Digital is just like all the things I can fix, even after I've done way more than half the book, and still now I can go back to those pages because they're digital, and I can go add, change, whatever I want as I'm going. And that's something I couldn't do on the first book because I did it traditionally, which is, I think it's a task. I think like if you're trying to like learn and try to draw a book fully traditional, it's a task, young ones. It's hard.
Do you miss it at all? Is there a difference for you that you're feeling between the traditional and the digital?
Oh, absolutely. I'd rather draw traditionally any day of the week. Like it's almost like magic when I'm drawing on paper. When I'm drawing digitally, I feel like I don't even know. It's almost a gross feeling in some weird way. It's like I'm drawing on glass, or like I'm having to like flip switches, and you know what I mean? Like it feels weird. When I'm drawing on paper, it feels like I'm where I should be. And that's the best way I can put it. The recent art I did on paper, the cover for Star Circuit 2 was one, and then I did this Goats Rider spoof that was really, really turned out good for Nefarious, and both of those felt like a dream drawing them.
Yeah, I saw that. That was a good piece, man.
Thanks.
All right, I want to share your campaign at this point. Let's see. So you got Star Circuit Chapter 2 up on Indiegogo. I'm going to give it a refresh just in case. So you're at 116 backers, 6,602 raised. You've got a $9,000 goal here. So what's Star Circuit, the overall? What is that about? And then specifically, what is Chapter 2 about?
Sure. I didn't realize this when I first started making it, because when you first start making something, you're just like, this is something cool I want to make. But Star Circuit is really about the things I'm trying to figure out in life, which is like how to form connections better, and like what's the meaning of essentially like a good life. And in this cyberpunk future, I'm able to tell the story that I want to tell about this this goal of forming connections. But really the book is about, the plot is about a street racer who has this delusion that he can beat the best racers that are currently out there, which are androids. In the future, everything's android driven, no pun intended, and also android what's the best way to put it? Like androids have freed us up to do whatever we wanted to do. It's almost like this weird dichotomy of like everyone's more connected than ever, but less connected than ever. We have more time than ever, but we have nothing to use the time to do with. So in the future, that's kind of what I'm focusing the themes around. And this street racer really has to figure out these themes, like figure out why is his life in kind of limbo, or like why is he not good enough, why is things not working out, and they come back to the connections, they come back to his internal stuff. But I feel like Star Circuit is everything I've been trying to figure out for myself. The book one is where book one opens up with our main street racer Atlas. He inadvertently gets a weird glitch in his ARC system, which the ARC is like a Neuralink chip that Elon's trying to make for us. Praise Elon. And yeah, Elon. We can all do magic tricks afterwards.
I'm sure it'll work just as good as Twitter.
Dude, it's X. I like how he asked everybody if X was a good name. So yeah, everyone's got this chip, and his glitch is out in the first book, which kind of inadvertently puts a target on the main character's back in the second book, marking him for capture by a villain who sends out these android ninjas. And now he's on the thank you. Now he's on the run from these cyber assassins, and he's got way more problems than just the glitch now.
Man, yeah, this is comparing it from the first book. Man, this is crazy. I can see what you mean about the panels and the pacing that you're putting in here for this one.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, I didn't know how to put it into words until yesterday. I saw on Pontificator's Mike Barron, shout out. He described it this way. I was like, that's exactly what it is. Like, it's literally correlated to the panel number, and put into words for me. I think Star Circuit 2 is for sure the best book I've ever done. And I think that's saying something, because I have done other books that haven't been released. So in between book 1 and book 2, I've done 2.5 other books. So it's almost like I've done 100 pages in between.
Yeah, because I was going to say this looks more like a book 4 in the development of what you've been doing, as opposed to a book 2. So that would make sense with what you've been doing in between.
It works out. I mean, I didn't aim for it to happen that way. I just took the jobs that seemed good, and I needed the money for whatever, you just do the jobs, and it just so happened to be lining up. And I took the extra time to rewrite a lot of things for Star Circuit 2. I wanted the writing to also have better pacing, not just the drawing. Mm-hmm. So in 2, I'd say the first one really has a breakneck pace the whole time. And like I said, the second one has a nice start-stop type of, I want you to feel fast-paced here, slow here, fast here, and then ramp up to this awesome, insanely high-stakes climax. And I think I pulled that off. I feel like everyone who's seen the script says it, and that gives me confidence that most people will feel this satisfaction after going through book 2.
Nice. And this is a preview from chapter 1, right?
That's right.
Yeah, this was the first issue. Yeah, so you got that up on the Indiegogo for free So you guys
Yeah.
can read a chapter 1 preview on there. I'm noticing also you've got it's a 72 pager.
Hmm.
So this is bigger than the first one. And this
Yeah.
isn't like the usual what I see out there is like 40 or so pages for the price point. This is 72. This is like a full-fledged graphic novel.
Yeah, I wanted it to. I felt like I don't know. Like I've only done so few books that I don't know exactly if it's just my style of writing or if I'm gonna curb my way to like doing it a little differently in the future. But 72 felt right. I actually wrote chapter 2 to be 140 pages, and we split it into 2 chapters. I thought shipping would have killed me, and a lot of the editors that I had also thought that. And so we cut it down to 72, is like right below it hits the next pound mark. You know what I mean? So I wanted to keep it under the weight to help the logistic part, but also I found a nice ending spot for chapter 2 where it fits in nice. But really, when I put out chapter 3, because I'll be moving straight into that after this, it's like 2 and 3 make this nice bookended thing, and I almost wanted it as just a whole chapter, but it'll just really feel good when you get both chapters in the end.
How many books are in the series?
I'm thinking if I keep going this larger book rate, it'll be more like 6 than 8, because I originally was saying 8 chapters, but it'd probably be like 6 if I keep going with it. 72 page chapters.
Nice. Let's see. Sherry wants to watch the trailer.
Popcorn.
So let's watch the trailer. Let's see here. Let's get this up.
Welcome to Colony A.2.1. Here, a vast network connects the minds of each member of the populace, delivering endless entertainment. Augmentally custom-made for each individual member, free of charge. It's the cornerstone of modern life, a perfect system. That was until a street racer named Atlas Metric caused the glitch in this flawless system. It went undetected by the system admins, but now has the attention of a nefarious power who will do whatever it takes to retrieve the cause of the glitch. Atlas. Now relentless android assassins have been dispatched to capture him. In order to escape this threat, he will need to overcome the impossible, with the glitch in tow. But hey, impossible is just something losers say when they've given up, right?
Nice, very nice trailer.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You know, I grabbed Ted, who did the first trailer again. Ted Segaro. He's great at this like really energetic type of trailer, and so I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, very nice. There you go, Sherry.
Explosive.
See, Comics for Life is asking here, do you ever write something with another artist in mind?
Like I said in my bio on Twitter, it's I'm an artist that learned to write. So I've only thought of the projects that I would draw myself. However, in this year, in 2024, I've thought of like, oh, what if I wrote a supplemental for Star Circuit, maybe like a little prequel or something to some of the characters' backstories. I could write that and get another artist to do it. And if that was the case, I would really like something that is totally different than my style, personally. So maybe something in black and white, more traditional comics. Yeah, that's where I would go.
Okay. Let's see. Comics Legend asks, will there be another soundtrack for part 2?
Ooh. So yeah, part 1 did. Chapter 1 had its own mixtape. I really pulled back on everything as far as the extras on chapter 2. One, because it's such a huge book and whatnot. It just like takes so much time. And comics already take a giant chunk of my life. So I'm like, everything extra is just, I can see it. Just like every song I have to ask somebody is just like, that's another time I can't see my nephew. That's another time I have to skip a birthday party, skip a camping trip. I can tally it up almost at this point. So I kept it minimal. So no songs this time, but I feel like when we get a good volume, I think after chapter 4, I'll probably book together 1 through 3 into a volume. Maybe then we'll do something a little bit bigger.
Very nice. Yeah, Rob Geronimo's got a vinyl soundtrack on his campaign.
That's
He's got
insane.
like one left, and it's pretty crazy.
Yeah,
Pretty
does he have a preview of most of the tracks?
He's got he did a stream where he previewed all the tracks, and then
I thought he did.
and he did it with the composer. It's a friend of his, and it's great stuff. And then he's got one track that's been uploaded to his YouTube channel, but it's
Sweet.
awesome. Yeah, I think
I'm
the
go-
only way to get that now is like to back the $100 perk, because all the add-on ones of it are sold out, and he's got
Sold
only
out.
one $100 perk left, and then that's it. It's the last vinyl on his campaign.
I'm gonna go check it out. If like I'm a music guy, so if I like the music enough, it might just be like,
Oh, it's so good. It's
Okay.
It's just epic and gothic, and you know, some of them are pretty crazy earworm type songs. Like one of them
Okay.
was stuck in my head for like 2 friggin' days.
dude, that's dangerous.
Yeah, but it's good stuff, and it goes good with his book there. So that's why if you're gonna do a soundtrack, would you ever consider putting it on vinyl or anything like that?
Yeah, in the end, if I actually, because the first mixtape was a kind of like a mini indie type of thing. I didn't really pay for them. I like asked people, "Do you want to collaborate? I'll put all the credits on there. You can do it, and you can promote your music stuff." And so that's kind of how I did it. I paid for one, but it was really, even that was really cheap just to get one kind of synthy kind of sounding particular track. I would do it if I paid somebody like to get a particular sound, but
Nice.
for some reason I'm not visualizing a particular sound. Maybe if with enough of the story done, I'll start visualizing the sound. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, maybe something to even put out once all of it's together or something. You can actually have a whole thematic kind of thing running.
It's odd because
through.
I visualize everything else, but like the sound, like I can listen to metal, I can listen to like piano music, and everything matches for Star Circuit, like just different times of the story. Yeah.
Well, that could be interesting to not just stick to one sort of sound, but have a couple different things throughout.
Yeah, I think that would be cool.
Yeah.
I'll keep that in mind, and just have it on the back burner. I usually do. I have like all these little post-it notes and like digital notes about ideas in the future. Yeah.
Right. So before we wrap things up, one question I have to ask you, especially in regards to the topic tonight, for people looking to either start on their comic book journey or someone maybe that's already in the midst of it, do you have any advice for people that are looking to either improve or get involved in all of this? Anything about overcoming some of the stuff they might be having a difficult time with? Like almost like frame it like this. Stuff that you know now and you wish you could have told yourself however many years ago, when you wish you from the future were there to tell you.
Yeah. I think embrace the good feelings you're getting, like, because if you're doing the art to begin with, or you have the drive of some kind to start, when you're doing it, hopefully you're getting good feelings out of it, like good, whatever, the dopamine or whatever. If it feels good, embrace that and kind of try to pick out like what really felt good, because I wish I did more of those things that like I just really honed in on like what I really loved. I in the beginning I did a Frank Frazetta ink piece that I really loved doing, and I didn't do another one. I should have did another one but I was just like more focused on just learning the technical stuff. But if you really enjoy one part of the puzzle, say whatever perspective or whatever it is, keep going at it, because like that probably would have, if I did enough of that, maybe it would have totally changed my style. Maybe I would have went a different direction. You never know what it would turn out as. I think that can curb your passion for what you're doing.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. And I find that if you stick to that kind of thing that you were just talking about, you learn a lot vicariously through that, and through osmosis. You kind of learn it from the repetition of it, and you're developing all these things, and you're having fun with it, and it's a constant flow of positive reinforcement. Whereas sometimes I think we beat ourselves up way too much when it comes to this sort of stuff. Trying to set a goal, and with goals and dreams, I always say, dream big, goal small. So have your big huge dream. Oh, you want to be a great artist, or you want to be a great writer, or you want to sell, 1 million comics, or whatever it is. But those aren't goals. Those are things that happen along the way. That's an outcome. That's a byproduct of you setting the smaller goals, and then you achieve the thing almost by accident in some way.
Yeah,
but
you set the goal for the thing.
Yeah, exactly.
You set the goal for the task, not the result.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think that's exactly where I would go. And here's an interesting thought. It's more kind of like woo-woo spiritual-ish. I read it in a Robert Henry painting book, but like by you doing those little studies that like I did, Frank Frazetta, or whatever studies you like, you're almost like tapping into their thought process. You're almost like becoming them, and in that way, like no matter how many years ago they made it, by you trying to replicate the same lines, or in some ways getting into their mindset and getting into like what they were feeling when they were doing it. And I kind of like that kind of approach, because even if it's not exactly true, I think like you do start to feel a little bit more confident and a little bit more like in the brain space of a professional, in a brain space of someone that like knows what they're doing, and just feel a part of something. I think that's the best part about like that thing Robert was talking about, is like you feel a part of a brotherhood of artists by like studying the masters and studying other people. Now you're a part of them, they're a part of you.
Yeah. I think there's some credence to that. I mean, you're tapping into something, no matter what it is that you're doing creatively. It doesn't have to be making a comic. It could just be, you could be cooking, you could be building something, you could be anytime. I think we tap into something creatively, and we are bringing something forth into the world, especially with a positive intent, and trying to benefit ourselves or the others around us. I think we're tapping into something that maybe we're not fully aware of yet. Maybe it's metaphysical to us at this point, but there's been a lot of different things over the years that are showing that we're on like the precipice of it not just being metaphysical, and it being a very substantial, quantifiable thing. Right. So, I know right now it sort of feels like, it's sort of this spiritual sort of just right out there, and you can't really define it yet, but they're getting close. And I think we already know what we're doing. We just maybe can't break it down into this mundane, boring formula.
Yeah, the science of it is not there like on paper. Yeah, it's not a theory yet or anything, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it's something we all feel. Let's see. Comics Legend says, Joe, now that you have left your day job and focusing on your comic, when do you anticipate finishing Volume 2?
Man, it's so great that just thinking about that brings me a smile, because like I probably will finish it sometime early summer, maybe sooner than that. And the goal is to get the book out where you're reading it for the holidays, printing around fall. And that should give enough time. But there's plenty of time. I do storyboards and other comic jobs. There's a few other things that could put a wrench in that plan, like another book that just takes some of the precedence because it just pays. But that's kind of something I'll have to deal with. However, there's not a whole lot more to go. And though I'm on the back half of the book where like it really is getting tough. It's really is challenging. Every page is just like pushing my limits. So they take longer.
Yeah, you're gonna eventually. That's the thing. You think you're done. You finished everything, and then you hit the polish it up, finalize it phase. Yeah. And that's when all of a sudden you go through everything with this fine-tooth comb.
Yep.
And it's a little nerve-wracking to be like, that's it, it's done.
Yeah, for sure. I almost, what I do is I check it off when I hit like 80-90%, like that right before that polish stage. I call it done, and then I do go back to it, obviously, and clean it up with a fresh mind. And then it's not so much like I need to finish this page and move on. I just count it done. Yeah, I count it done and go back. Yeah.
Oh, taking the step back is so important. If you're in the thick of it the whole time, you're gonna make these rash judgment calls. You're gonna just be too nitpicky. You're not gonna allow anything to kind of breathe the way it needs to breathe. You almost gotta take enough of a step back. I like to take 1 week. I know that might sound like a lot sometime before I go, okay, it's done. Because I want to almost kind of forget what I'm seeing and go into it. So, because then that's when I'll pick something up and I'm like, oh my God, that part isn't really that clear. I got to really tighten that up.
Yeah.
Or, okay, this is good. I get it. This the flow of it is good. I'm not being too aloof or I'm not being too on the nose. But I like to take enough time away that I
like that too.
Decisions.
I think the only thing one of the tricks I do is I bring up a camera, but on, like if you go to text someone, like, so bring up someone's like text message, click the camera and take a picture of your work and then see it like as you're about to text, but don't send it. Just like it triggers something in my brain. Like it was like, I can't send this. There's something right there. I see it. And
that's a good point. Seeing it smaller and
it just triggers like, maybe everything looks good to me in my office. I'm not showing anybody, but the minute like it triggers like other eyes looking at it in my brain, I'm like, oh, this is not acceptable. Whatever this part is.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, because once you feel like, wait, other people are gonna see this. Okay, wait, I gotta tighten that up. I gotta.
I can't let. It happens a lot, especially if you work with like a bigger name or like someone like a pro or whoever else is going to critique it. You're like, man, I can't let them see this. If this is my finish, I got to clean that up a little bit. It's fun.
Yeah. Good stuff, man. Oh, thank you. What Geeks Do Network, appreciate it. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed the show and the conversation.
Thanks.
So Star Circuit Chapter 2 is on Indiegogo. You have got, let's see. That is 22 days left.
Yep.
So you are at 73% of your goal. I'm going to give it a quick refresh. You never know.
You never know.
So unfortunately, nobody during the course of the show. But yeah. So 116 backers on board. And you've got 6,602 raised, $9,000 goal with 22 days left. This is the first... it just started like a week ago, right?
Yeah, we're just past the week, so we're fresh. It's a fresh campaign.
Fantastic. All right, and thank you, Comics for Life. Appreciate that. All right, so before we go, where can they find you, Joe?
So you can find me in 2 spots specifically. Twitter, I'm CATAPANO Art. It's under my name there. And then on YouTube, you can find me Good Joe Art on YouTube. So... they tag it weird these days, but if you look up Good Joe Art, you'll find my channel. I'm also on Instagram, but as CATAPANO Art, but I'm not usually, if you want to talk to me and DM me, it's best if you do it on Twitter. I'm most active there.
All right, fantastic. All right, everyone, thank you guys so much for being here. I'm going to be back tomorrow night. It is the return of open mic. We're going to have open mic Fridays, once a month, last Friday of the month, and that would be tomorrow. So if you want to come on the show, and Joe, hell, you could show up if you want. You get 5 minutes to talk about your project, pitch your project, show it off, all that good stuff, and then we part ways and someone else comes on board to talk about their stuff. So that's tomorrow night, 9:30 Eastern. That's when we're starting that.
Awesome. I might take you up on that if something doesn't conflict. That'd be awesome.
All right. Yeah, sounds good. So yeah, that'll be tomorrow night, guys. Again, 9:30 Eastern, open mic. If you've got a project, if you've got something comic related you want to come on and show, talk about, view it as like a show and tell sort of thing. I used to do a lot of open mics that were weekly. This is going to be once a month, last Friday of every month, and that would be tomorrow night, would be the first one. Hope to see you guys tomorrow night, and hope to see a bunch of you here too promoting your stuff. All right, until then, everybody take it easy. Have a wonderful night and an even better tomorrow. I'll see you guys soon. All the best.
Bye.